Welcome to the Fralin Spotlight Talks for YouTube. Before we begin, I encourage you to use these videos interactively. When you are prompted to observe, pause the video and look carefully. When the educator asks a question, feel free to pause the video again and discuss your observations and ideas, making sure to address what you see that makes you say that. Enjoy!
In this video, we're going to talk about a painting by Armando Mariño called De frente al publico, Hombre de espalda y Hombre de frente. In front of the public, man from the front and man from the back. Let's talk about what we see, starting at the top of the painting. Look closely at the Indigenous figure at the top of the frame. Observe his clothing, his posture, and his gaze. His clothing indicates that this figure is likely Taino, an indigenous culture from Mariño's home country of Cuba. Now, let your eyes wander. What do you notice about the wall behind this figure? What do you notice about the painting he's standing on? Moving down, let's look at the middle, directing our eyes to the painting inside the frame. This man faces away from the viewer. Look closely at his clothing and his posture. Notice the colors inside the frame. How do they make you feel? Does this remind you of anything you've seen before? In his painting, Mariño has recreated Wanderer Above a Sea of Fog, first painted by Caspar David Friedrich in 1818. He's also chosen to depict the painting inside of a golden frame. Observe the details of this frame and imagine how the bits of paint add texture to the flat canvas. In this painting, one man faces away from the viewer and one man faces at the viewer. Take a moment to pause the video and talk to someone near you about what you notice and imagine about these figures. What do they have in common? And how are they different? What size are they in relation to their surroundings? What about in relationship to each other? How would it be different if they turned around and faced the other direction? Now that we've looked closely at the figures in the painting, let's look at the colors that make up the entire image. The artist, Armando Mariño, said, "Color is everything in my paintings. I try to use a very strong, vibrant, and intense palette. Color is the most important part of a painting." Where do you see vibrant or intense colors? I notice the bright red background, the cool blue fog inside the painting, the dark browns of the rocks, and the shadow behind the frame. The red background is particularly eye-catching, and it feels intense compared to the relaxing blue inside the frame. This contrast in colors may be a visual representation of the painting's larger themes of European imagination versus indigenous reality. Throughout the history of Western colonization, Europeans have used images of sweeping landscapes to justify invasion of native land and erase the existence of Native Americans from their art. These images would create a fantasy of a pristine landscape untouched by humans, when in reality, indigenous people had been living on and caring for that land for generations. Images like Wanderer Above a Sea of Fog carry history, and Mariño takes an image that might seem familiar and puts it in a new context. Mariño invites you to consider the image of a white European man looking over a landscape in the presence of an indigenous person, peeling back the layers of meaning that an image can carry over its history. Thank you for watching this video and paying close attention to Armando Mariño's De frente al publico, Hombre de espalda y Hombre de frente. As this video ends, I invite you to reflect on what you've learned while looking closely at the colors and the details of this work of art.
We hope you've enjoyed this Writer's Eye Spotlight Talk. Please reach out to the Education Department with any questions or feedback. Our email is museumoutreach@virginia.edu.